My only other thing to what you're saying is that that I disagree with would be that this idea that unprotected sex between two people equals wanting a child, or that if a child does come into fruition, that that means automatically he needs to take responsibility. When two people, and that's why people shouldn't be having unprotected sex anyways. Like that's the issue, because when a child comes into play, what if he doesn't want the kid? Like again, just because somebody says they want to have unprotected sex with you does not mean they want to have a baby with you. So even if, because again, when I hear women talk about being pregnant, becoming single moms, it's not because they're not honest in saying they had unprotected sex. When you ask a woman why, what does she say? Because the condom broke. Everybody's condom broke. So I'm saying they're not even saying they had unprotected sex. Nobody's being honest with that. So what I'm saying is, if you're gonna do that, that's not what that means. Having unprotected sex as two consenting adults does not mean if you get pregnant, yes, I want a baby. That's not what that means. Having a child together means I want to have a child with you. If a man does not marry you, he's telling you he does not want to have a child with you. And anything that happens prior to that point, I would not continue with. And I would never advise somebody to continue with, because being a single mother is hard. No one has ever said it's easy. So I never understand that sentiment. No one ever said it was easy. It is extremely hard. It is extremely hard on the mother. It is extremely hard on the child. This is a horrible dynamic to bring a child into, consciously making that decision. Now, again, obviously, like you said, things happen after the child comes into fruition. I can't speak on that because I've never experienced that, and I wouldn't know about that. But all I'm saying is there are men of good character, and those men are who marry you, get you pregnant, and they build that family with you. That's all I'm saying. There are specific types of men in this world. And all I'm saying is, as a woman, we choose who we give access to our bodies to. You choose who you have. You said it yourself. You
She's
tell him to
cooking.
have protection, or you're not having sex with him, right?
She's cooking, but the issue is what she's doing, even if she's cooking, she's trying to hold single moms accountable. But we all know how this goes. They're probably going to call a pick me because they don't want to be held accountable, And obviously, because she's putting responsibility on them. Hey, listen, being a single mom isn't just the man's fault. It's your fault as a woman. You should have made sure you use protection, ABCD. You should have made sure you were married before. And then she mentioned that women should choose good guys who marry them. But usually, when the guy doesn't make the good money, even if he's a good guy, he's not good enough for them. So they will choose an athlete, a rapper who makes quick money, good money, right? But he doesn't want marriage, over a guy who makes average money, but he wants marriage. So they will have a baby with a rapper, with an athlete, with an NBA player, football player, quickly before marriage, and then become single moms. But because they know they're going to collect 18 years of child support, rather than marriage with a good guy who they should supposed to build together. It's the life we live in.
I'm not laying down with him if I don't want to have sex with him. I'm not laying down with him unprotected if I don't want to have sex with him unprotected. So there's a
Facts.
lot of I in this prior to the man taking on his responsibility like he should, because I
Yeah.
do believe that he should take care of his responsibilities. But again, we can't put responsibility on a man that's irresponsible. That's the whole issue. These men
we're,
are not
we're really saying the same thing,
fathers.
baby. We're really kind of saying the same thing. I'm not arguing with
I
you
will
with
say
that.
the same
But
thing.
what I don't like is all the blame being put on the woman, all the blame being put on the single mom, and we're not discussing that two parties went into a situation irresponsibly. That's all I'm saying.
I can agree to
You know what
that.
I mean? That's it. We gotta have balance because you know.
Absolutely. All I'm saying, and I can agree to that. I definitely think we should blame both parties. But then the issue comes into fact when then the women get upset because we tell them that, okay, now, okay, fine. Say we blame the fathers. We're bashing the single dad. The absent fathers. We're bashing, we bashing. What does that do from that point forward? That she still has to raise the child alone. So all I'm saying is, from that point of us bashing the men that aren't here, we bash them. That's not gonna make them come take care of kids that they don't want to come take care of. You can't get money out of a broke ass nigga that don't have money. So putting him on child support does nothing. If he goes to jail, still does nothing. You can't get the money. So all I'm saying is, what does that do? What we need to be doing is telling these women, and also to stop perpetrating this idea that the child is gonna be a-okay no matter what, no matter how hard she does her job. They are living in detriment, and this idea that she can just do it no matter what is not true.
But that's
Oh my gosh. I mean, what am I supposed to add to that? Because she's cooking. But as you can see, Randy is about to go in because she doesn't like it. She doesn't like when another woman holds them accountable. They would rather hear men being held accountable. But the moment the guns are switching and like, okay, we are done holding the men accountable. It's over to you, single moms. You should have chosen better. You should, chosen marriage before carrying. You should have chosen a good man. You should have listened. You shouldn't have listened, going to the bad boys. They're like, no, 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 it's the man's fault. No, 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 it's the man's fault. But it's like, okay, let's say you chose a bad guy. So now what? Are you going to choose the second guy to be a bad guy, just like your first baby daddy? Or are you going to choose better? Because at the end of the day, if you want, difference for the future, you have to make better decisions, but you have to hold yourself accountable. Let's see what Randy is going to say.
So if we can be honest, Cam, that was my issue with the conversation in the beginning. The conversation was leaning so much toward a conversation of single Black mothers versus the fact that it needs to be a 2-parent household. What we're all saying is the same. Now at this point, it's the same thing, that we all need to have higher standards when it comes to dating. We need to all impose those standards. I've said this numerous times, that if all of the women just get together and say, hey, we not fucking none of these broke niggas no more. We not giving them no more time and energy.
And that's the issue. The only thing they think that makes a good man is the money. See what she said? We are not messing up. We're not messing with broke niggas no more. What they call a broke nigga is the one who's not going to take them to Cancun. One is not going to take them to an expensive dinner date. One who's not going to pay all their bills. That's when they consider a broke nigga. So what they do is they choose the athletes, which I talked about before, the drug dealers, the NBA players, they choose those guys who have money as the good guys. And those are the same guys that make them single moms, the futures of this world. And then they leave the good guy, $80K a year, doing a nice job as a teacher or whatever. Those guys are not good guys because they're considered broke guys. So for me, it's the same cycle. Until they can look at average men, doing average jobs, getting average money, and consider them as good men, because those guys more likely want marriage than the athletes who have all the money. Until then, it's going to be the same cycle of single moms.
We're going to make them get themselves together. We're going to get ourselves together. And then we all got together and dated. It would make sense. But unfortunately, the beginning of this conversation didn't read that way at all.
Not fucking broke niggas ain't going to be
Hold on 1 second. I want to get.
Been trying to do. Y'all been trying to fuck the rich niggas. And y'all see how that's been going.
Hold on 1 second. One second. We're going to open it up for everybody. I just want to make sure that Quentin get his shit off, because he's been patiently waiting on.
I was trying to take shit out on the broke niggas.
She touched on it.
All right, well, go ahead. Y'all can say whatever y'all. I'm sure Trigger want to jump right on me. Go ahead, Trigger.
Head first. Pause.
Okay, so I just want to address a few things, and I try to be as fast as possible. Okay, so yes, parenting is difficult no matter what. The blame does need to be more shared. It's not about even bashing the father, right? It's about putting blame where blame is due. And the fact that 95% of social media blame goes to single mothers is sad, instead of holding these men accountable. The fact that you say that you can't put responsibility on somebody or the man who's not responsible, you wouldn't put that way if all these mothers was like, I'm not raising this child either, I'm finna drop this child off. Those mothers are looked at as like, oh, they're monsters. But that's literally what most of these men do, and they get a pass for it at the end of the day. And that's why we need to call the men out more for doing the same thing, instead of always pointing the finger at the single mother. It's because the man just feels like, oh well, everybody, if I don't feel like having a child, that's fine. And society really don't raise another eyebrow to that as much as they do as the person, like somebody else has said, who decided to stay, which is usually the mother. And of course, it doesn't mean that most or like majority or all of these mothers are like amazing. Of course, there are toxic people. There are toxic people in 2-parent households. And that's what I want to say too. Like you talking about, these men who are abusing women are the ones who were raised by single women. That's far from true, because most abusers are abusers because they saw their father or mother. But I'm just going to say that, like, it could be a 2-parent household that is just as toxic than a 1-parent household. And without any substantial statistics, which I don't even think exist, you cannot just say that most single women are failing at raising children, because that's just totally untrue.
That,
It's totally
but
untrue. But what I was gonna say about
Come on, baby,
um,
we gotta wrap
you
that
know,
up.
not taking accountability and wanting to point the finger. I was actually talking to Mika, and we were talking about you know, how men feel like they're being taken advantage of, and this is why you know, certain people are, you know, advising them not to pay for dates and all this because they're being taken advantage of. I feel like people like Anton and Mika, with all due respect, are people who are married young, and then they are looking at the victims of these men like, oh, I'm losing my money. Oh, I can't afford these women. And
we're
they're
not
taking
talking.
So is it an issue for men to be scared of losing money on debts and being taken advantage of now? It's an issue because men are waking up and saying, hey, listen, I used to pay $100 on every dinner date and I got ghosted. Now I'm only going to do coffee dates. That's an issue. Like, so men are just supposed to be continuing to do the same thing and expecting, you know, different results.
Talking about that.
I
But
think
that's hold on, wait. Hold on.
victim
That has
the
wait.
victimhood of these men.
That is not
And,
relevant.
and that's where
I'm sorry.
they're like trying to
Muter,
champion.
muter.
Hold on.
One
Push the
mic, one
button.
mic.
That's not relevant to this conversation. We can
Exactly.
only visit that. Quentin, what did you have to say, bro?
I think the whole narrative to this whole conversation tonight is just that dudes are leaving. Like, there's no stats about boyfriends leaving single mothers, but there are stats about women being single mothers getting divorced. So what is it?
Facts. Most of the time, the women file for divorce or leave relationships. 80%, 70% of the time. You can ask a woman, how many boyfriends have you had and how many have broken up with you? She will tell you. If you don't believe the statistics, find a random woman or a female friend. Ask her how many relationships she has been in. Ask her how many of those guys left her and how many of those guys she left. She will tell you exactly. Most of the time, they leave the guy.
This whole thing that men are just leaving. What about these women that don't want these men or choose other shit?
Yep.
Yeah, that happens.
No, I'm just saying the whole narrative is just like dudes are leaving and women ain't leaving. Like, women choose to be single moms every day. They're like, fuck you, nigga, I'm out. Like, women will say all day long, like they'd rather have a baby than get married all day long.
Facts.
I've never heard a woman say that, and that sounds very unfortunate.
It happens.
What you mean? Which? Are you saying women don't choose to be single moms? They don't say, I'd rather have a baby than be married because they feel marriage is slavery, but a baby, they feel like they are free to do what they want? Women every day say marriage is slavery. So for you to say they're not choosing to be single moms over marriage is crazy. They literally say marriage is slavery and they would rather be single moms than you know, be in slavery, which is called marriage.
Happens all the time. I want to have a baby, but I don't want to marry him. They say it all the time.
Because babies are made through having sex. People have sex and don't even know each other. But I personally have never heard someone say, I would rather have a baby than get married.
You're a
that
liar.
to me is insane.
Okay, being a single mom is a choice, though. They just
For the
How
most
so?
part, they choose it.
So
You choose it.
your remedy
like,
is if
What
you
Kim
get
said that I was gonna say, you just talked for like 10 minutes and didn't say shit. What she said is like responsible men have babies within a marriage. Come again?
Why is y'all so mean to her?
Because
No,
you
he
just
wasn't
talked for an
mean.
hour and then I tried to say something and you start talking
no,
again.
it's not that we mean, is that Trigger has to be reined in sometimes because she'll go into a completely different part of the conversation and that we're not there yet. So she wanted to talk about something different, but we want to make sure that Quentin get his thoughts off because Quentin was patient. So go ahead, get your thoughts off, bro.
And then we gotta go super chat.
That's it. Just responsible men have sex in marriage.
Now hold on, let me just get my thoughts.
Random, Randy.
I'm gonna just, and then we can go to the super chats. This is what y'all wanted. Y'all advocated for this. Y'all advocated for equal. And when you advocate for equal, you also advocate for equal responsibility and accountability.
Facts.
And so, you know, if this was a time where you had no choices, meaning that you didn't have a choice on who you can vote for, you didn't have a choice of where you can work, you don't have a choice of who it is that you can marry. If this was 100 years ago, if this was even 50 years ago, then this would be a completely different conversation and you could put 100% of the responsibility on men. But we in a different time where women are choosing. And if y'all telling me that women are being held accountable to the same rate of men, even though we advocated for equal, I would absolutely say that this is a disingenuous conversation.
Facts, because did you guys know that if a man doesn't pay child support, he can be thrown in jail? And being thrown in jail doesn't mean that once he's out, he won't have to pay. No, he still is required to pay. But now he's going to jail. He's probably going to lose his job if he goes to jail. He's going to lose his license. But then on top of that, now if he has no job because he has a record, how is he going to earn money to pay his child support? But now tell me how many women, because some women pay child support too, but not all of them pay child support. So tell me how many women are in jail or have ever been sent to jail for not paying child support. I'll wait. Exactly. So anyway, shout out to Anton Daniels, link down below.